are listening to the Overwatch League Network, the podcast with Deadeye on all the Overwatch League news and information. The show with Tactical Visor on the statistics and analysis. Here are your hosts, Totally Drunk, Spider, and Slambo.
Welcome back to Overwatch League Network, the podcast with Deadeye on all the latest Overwatch League news, information, and esports analysis. I'm your host, Totally Drunk, and tonight on episode 21, we go around the league discussing the latest Overwatch League news, update you on all the roster additions and transfers, and get you primed ahead of Stage 2, Week 1. But before we get into the news and introduce you to the co-hosts, I just want to take a moment to thank everyone who is hanging out in Twitch chat, and for any repeat listeners that we do have. And tonight is our first show over on Twitch. But, of course, as always, I do have a few friends here with me tonight to help break everything down. Up first, shouting bye 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 at all of the Funko Pop exclusives is Spider. Spider, what's up, nerd?
What's going on, man? Yeah, I'm looking forward to those 3 exclusives. When I first saw them announced, I was excited, but I was a little disappointed because last wave there was actually 10 exclusives, so I feel like they're scaling it back a little bit, and I would have liked to see like a carbon fiber Zenyatta or maybe a newer skin. But anybody who's seen my office, I'm gonna buy them all regardless, so I'm kind of happy that I'll be spending less money on exclusives. But man, we got a big show tonight. It's almost stage 2. The lull is over and I'm ready to go. So how about you, man? How was your week?
I mean, luckily we've had some distractions. We had the Puppy Bowl today, which was absolutely phenomenal.
That was pretty good.
I mean, there wasn't a lot of action, but I mean, the Twitter was eating it up. So,
and most of them got adopted. I checked the website before we started, and almost a majority of them got adopted. The Symmetra puppy was gone immediately.
Mm-hmm. all the LA ones were gone within the first hour, I think.
Oh, wow.
Which is good to see. But yeah, I just was watching and I'm imagining Blizzard approaching D.va and Monty and be like, okay, we really need you to cast this really awesome Overwatch event with dogs.
They kept a straight face through it all. I mean,
I can't believe they did that.
Mm-hmm. Alright, well, up next we have my soulmate, the man with the most punchable face in the OW podcast game today, but please, guys, don't hit your monitors. That is Slambo. Slambo, how's it going, brother?
What's up, nerds? And yes, we are live. I'm so excited to be here. I'm not excited for that Puppy Bowl thing. I wanted to like that so much. I wanted to love it because I love puppies. I love Overwatch. I just wasn't jiving with it. I didn't really understand what was going on. I think, Monty and D.va did their best, and even Uber and Seltzer, they all were all in on it. And it's a great idea. It's a great cause. I'm all for, ultimately the end goal. But I was surprised how little I enjoyed watching it, to be honest with you.
Old man Slambo hates fun. News at 11.
Slambo hates puppies. Confirmed.
I try to qualify that, but I don't hate puppies. Still, you guys heard absolutely nothing that mattered. Anyway, I feel like I've been gone forever. I've been on and off the road and doing all sorts of things, but I really cannot wait to unpack some of what's ahead for Stage 2. And frankly, let's just get the show on the road.
Absolutely. Well, joining us here tonight on our first Twitch show is a free agent in his own right. At long last, we are reunited after being on the World of Podcasts Overwatch panel together at BlizzCon. It is DJ Tyrant. Jimmy, thank you so much for being here tonight.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me. It's been a little bit since I've done Overwatch podcasting stuff, and man, I've just been watching OWL so much and been wanting to talk about it. So it's really great to be on here. And yeah, that World of Podcast was a ton of fun.
Yeah,
for some of you.
The neglect was real in at least one of the corners here. Spider.
Someone legitimately had to ask today why I always get bullied, and you guys cited very specifically that World of Podcast panel is the whole reason I've earned that. So thank you for that.
Yeah, I mean, not everyone knows, the ongoing podcast memes that we have had throughout our podcast history, so, whenever it is a newer person, we do have to, catch them up to speed, so that is exactly what I was doing in that case. But anyways, guys, let's go ahead and jump into the news as we go around the league in this week's Overwatch League news. So, Stage 2 is upon us, Stage 2 starts this week, and with that, we do have some changes to the schedule. We do know that the stage finals have moved from a Saturday to Sundays, so the stage finals will start on Sundays now at 1 p.m. Pacific time. And then all of the weekday matches, that will be Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, all of those will be starting at 4 p.m. Pacific time, with Saturday matches beginning at 1 p.m. Pacific time. So, the shift to Sunday for the stage finals was to prevent, player fatigue as well as fan fatigue, because we all saw how the Stage 1 finals went, having to sit through, 11, 12 hours worth of Overwatch League, which was a lot for some people, and, having to play 14 matches, or 14 maps, in some cases, was a lot for anyone. But, if you are one of those people that have already purchased a ticket to the Stage 2 finals, which I'm pretty sure they're sold out, you will receive a free ticket to Sunday's game as, compensation there, so you don't have to worry about picking up another ticket in that case. So, Jimmy, I want to get your thoughts on just the changes on this overall. Do you think this is a good change here for the future, at least as a spectator?
Yeah, as a spectator, I think having that consistency on when Overwatch League is going to be on is going to be good. And as great as the Stage 1 finals were, I think it's better for game quality and for the players to move that to a separate day, so you're not doubling up on having to play as much, because I was actually talking to a unnamed Overwatch League team executive who was complaining about the potential of having to play twice in the same day there, and obviously you don't see that in traditional sports, and that's kind of what Blizzard is wanting to do with Overwatch League is mirror traditional sports a bit. You don't have people doubling up on games too much. I mean, yeah, you see baseball, you see the double headers and stuff like that, but that's relatively rare and not something that's purposely scheduled that way. So I'm excited to see that. I know some of the European folks are not too happy about some of the changes to the start times. I'm excited about the Saturday matches being at 1 p.m. now, because it means I get to sleep in a little bit more if I go to go down to the arena.
It's always good, and in some cases too, some teams were even playing 3 times a day, if you were unfortunate enough to only get 3rd seed or 2nd seed.
Mm-hmm.
I think all the changes are pretty good. I mean, we kind of talked about the Saturday change to Sunday last week, and I think that's just going to help hype overall. It's going to help, fatigue. It's going to help hype. There's really no downside to it. The rest of the week shift was a little strange to me. I feel like there was maybe some back end that maybe they weren't seeing as much viewership in the early matches during the week, because even over here, I was still at work when the matches started. So I can imagine on the West Coast, that's like 2:00. So, 90% of people who don't work at Blizzard are at work. So I could see there was probably some, behind the scenes reasons, and, consistent schedule. You don't have to worry about, hey, is today Wednesday, Thursday, when do the games start? So the non-diehard fans will know every day when they're going to start. I mean, that's pretty much it. I think they're learning, they're growing, and they're getting better.
Yeah, I think you nailed it for me there at the end. Is that consistency? It was a little weird because I would kind of, even though I knew the schedule pretty well, and I would kind of miss my notifications on my phone, is I would be at work and I would kind of get off on Thursday and I would look down and go, and I'd miss a whole match, and again I'd go back and I'd watch it in VOD time, but in those little kind of moments where I get a little confused about where I am, that'll be nice. It's good. For, like you said, even on those Thursdays, I don't have to be at work watching Twitch to catch up for the last 3 hours of my shift, or while I'm at work, whatever the case. I like all that, and I think really the biggest thing is that Sunday shift. It was too much. We're huge Overwatch fans. Totem was talking about recording an episode of the back cap after the finals on that Saturday, and it's just too much Overwatch for us, and I can't imagine you. I know you didn't end up recording it on that day. You did it on the Sunday after. But I'm just sitting here like, who who could just sit there that long and watch it? And not only that, but I just felt so bad for the players. I'm exhausted as an observer. What the heck are they going through? So for all the right reasons. Every one of these schedule changes makes sense. And I think overall, um, having 1 week with 5 days of Overwatch, not adding that much to the schedule, but my brain went right away to logistics and travel. I'm like, all these people had like hotel rooms. No one's supposed to stay Saturday night. They're going home Saturday after and so I was kind of worried about all those people that are going to have to now change their travel plans to stay an extra day. But I think most of the audience is probably local to California, so it's probably not the end of the world.
Yeah, you'd really have to twist my arm to make me stay an additional day on the West Coast. I mean, jeez. I mean, my biggest takeaway for this, at least for you, Slambo, was the fact that we're not alternating like too much in the times, so it's just going to be easier for you overall, not having to deal with so many numbers, just going back and forth all the time. Right. So that is a big plus in that regard. Well, other than, the new schedule, we do have a ton of new additions to different Overwatch League teams out there. So let's go ahead and start off with two of the Korean powerhouse teams. We have the Seoul Dynasty and the New York Excelsior. And the Seoul Dynasty have added a support player, and that is a former player from Luxury Watch Blue, that being Gambler, and this will bring the Dynasty up to their max of 12 players, and he will be a backup player. He's a Lucio player, so he'll be backing up for Toby, and then on the New York Excelsior side of things, we have the former Ardiant captain, Animo, who will be joining them, and he will be their first backup support player. And Animo, just to give you guys a brief rundown, he was a shot caller for Mighty AOD when he was on that team before he moved on to play for Ardiant as their team captain. And they most recently won the Overwatch Pacific Championship back in December. So, we are seeing more and more teams trying to, not only get backups, but have enough players to really start to run some internal scrimming, and the Dynasty now being up at 12 is going to give them the opportunity to do that, but, New York still quite isn't there as of yet, just in terms of the roster size.
Yeah, most definitely. But I think what's more interesting is I was worried a little bit about this off week, and then we wouldn't have a whole lot to talk about, and then all these team changes happened, and really, what stands out to me about these two pickups is that teams are preparing very hard for this shift away from Mercy and getting other support players who are stronger in the other heroes like Lucio and the Moria probably is what we're going to see. I mean, we're going to talk a little bit more about meta later on, but yeah, seeing these pickups doesn't surprise me too much. And I think we'll see more teams definitely inch closer to that max size of 12, because like you said, it allows them to run internal scrims, and that really lets you hide strats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, these two pickups were interesting. The Soul picking up basically a backup for Toby, because that's kind of where the hero pool overlaps is with Toby. Kind of makes me think that there might be a little more behind the scenes stuff that we're not seeing, with their recent struggles, maybe some shot calling issues, and they want to bring him in and see, kind of what Gambler can do in these type of things. But he was okay on Luxury Watch, but I don't consider him as good of a support as Ryu or Toby. So I feel like it's a step down no matter who they sub out. But it gives them, a little more flexibility. They had put Guido in before, but Guido's not really a support player. So I feel like this is just kind of hedging their bets a little bit. Animo, I think, is perfect for New York. I think they needed another support. They needed someone on the bench, or, somebody who can sub in, because, as much as we love Jonak and Arc, they, if either one of them was out, they had to sub in Libero, which we saw in the preseason. And we all saw that Libero is not great at support, I guess is the nicest way to say it. He's a very gifted DPS, but he should stay on that DPS role. So I feel like that was a great pickup for New York.
I think the Animo pick makes a lot of sense, but I would say that the Gambler pickup from the Dynasty, it at least to me says the writing on the wall is that they're either trying to like let Toby focus on maybe another hero in particular, so they want him to focus on Moira, and then Gambler will be the Lucio, or vice versa. But I think, Spider, you touched on it. I think the bigger story here, the thing to focus on is they're maybe trying to improve their shot calling. And whether that is Gambler stepping in and doing more shot calling, or if that is to maybe understand how Gambler does it. I mean, he's so good at it, he had to take a leave of absence for his vocal cords, being at risk. So he's clearly a passionate, loud shot caller. And in that Lucio or that support role, it's very, paramount that that player is very good at communicating important things and understanding what ults the enemy team has and calling all that out. And that may be a weak spot for Toby. And again, I'm trying to see the writing on the wall here because it just seems weird to get like another Lucio player with such a good Lucio. But I mean, don't you guys? I guess Totem, I'll just kind of ask it to you. But do you think that they're maybe trying to allow one or the other, Toby or Gambler, to kind of maybe focus on Moira, focus on other things? Am I off base here?
It's kind of hard to say. I think it's more of a move for them to have Guido kind of go back to the DPS role, if anything. But I think out of the gate, we're still going to be seeing mostly Toby and Ryuji Han. I don't know exactly if there's like a hero pool differential between the two, because I know they both do main Lucio. But I don't think we're going to be in a situation where... I don't know. I don't see like Gambler picking up Moira over Toby or Ryuji Han. I just think that particular hero does fit better with their toolkit. So, I don't know.
Makes sense.
Alright, well, that isn't the only addition that we have seen. We got a ton of teams that we need to talk about. Next up, let's talk about the Los Angeles Gladiators, who have acquired another tank, shields up, as they always say, and they have come to terms on a transfer agreement with the London Spitfire to bring Fisher over to the Gladiators per the league's approval. So, the LA Gladiators, they had one of the smallest rosters in Stage 1. Really the only smaller roster at the time was the Florida Mayhem. And the Gladiators only had 7 players on that roster, and it only consisted of one tank player, that being iRemix. And now they bring in another main tank. So, I think, like, all in all, this sign-in might have the biggest impact out of all of the sign-ins that we have seen here so far for the Overwatch League.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Just how important having multiple tanks are in this meta, just in general. Even before the Mercy nerfs, there was always, you're running 2 tanks almost 100% of the time, and having to force a player to be in a role that they're not necessarily comfortable with. Maybe they're really good at it, but it's still not their strongest suit, is going to be huge, I think, for the Gladiators. And yeah, we've seen, I think, the flexibility of teams with deeper rosters having a much bigger impact. And obviously adding second tank going to be really huge for the Gladiators. And I think what's more interesting is this is not the only Spitfire transfer that's happening. This is like one of 2 we're going to be talking about. So it's interesting to see that London's already being like, yeah, we can move some players around and we'll be okay.
Yeah, I mean, you guys nailed it. I think this so far is, maybe other than the Shanghai stuff, the biggest pickup out of the current trades. Because, I mean, when you look at Gladiators, they have a lot of talented DPS, but they've struggled up front. Specifically, iRemix has struggled up front. And, I pulled some statistics and stuff, and he was at the bottom of almost every Winston statistic. He was basically just above XQC, which, how much you want to weight that depends on how much you want to wait playtime. So, but he was constantly bottom 3, bottom 2 in almost everything. And then when you look at Fisher didn't get a lot of playtime, but he got almost basically about an hour and a half on Winston. He was, significantly better. I mean, he posted like a 71% map win rate, whereas iRemix's was 36%. So, just right there. And then basically all the stats were in basically in Fisher's favor. The only thing iRemix was better than Fisher at was playtime. So I think this, out of all the pickups, is the biggest statistical advantage. Now, whether he can integrate into the team, we'll see how that goes. But on a purely like statistical skill level, it looks like this is a huge pickup. And you had mentioned that, they only signed one tank player, but really Bishu has kind of picked up D.va and made it his own. He's been one of the best D.vas in the league. I mean, he constantly cleans up this team. Like most of the team fights that they win are because Bishu was where he needed to be. He was either protecting a support or helping out a DPS, secure a kill. So I think putting a better main tank there is going to elevate Bishu, and it's going to make Surefour and Asher and Hydration even more dangerous. So I think, once he's integrated into the team, which I don't think will happen for stage 2, I think they could be a solid contender for, a top 5 team. Now, whether they're top, that's a debate that we can have another time. But I think this is a huge pickup for them.
I think for me, it's the caliber of the pickup, as you're saying, that is the highlight. I think Fisher was such a big impact player. And when we saw these 2 London Spitfire rosters come together, it was almost perplexing to me that Fisher wasn't out there. I understand why, and the success they had with the 2 comparative rosters internally. I get it. But it's really good to see Fisher heading to a destination where I think he's going to see a lot more playtime. To your point, his playtime was pretty dang low, right? So I just think that he's going to get a chance to shine here. He's going to get a lot more playing time. And I know there's a lot of synergy between iRemix and Bishu, but I think that they're not going to lose a lot with this change. If they put Fisher in right away, it's not like the Los Angeles Gladiators are going to lose too much of that core, because like you said, the tank play, while there is synergy and conceptually they've had some success, there's also been a lot of struggles, very particularly, like you said, in the main tank role. So of all the trades, and not really a trade, I guess, transfers to look at, this one makes a ton of sense, and I'm very excited for really Fisher, because he's probably been bored waiting for his chance to play.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, this was not the only move that the London Spitfire did make, and the Dallas Fuel have acquired Rascal from the Spitfire after coming to an agreement with a contract transfer. So Rascal will mark the second DPS sign-in for the Dallas Fuel during this sign-in window. They also picked up the former rogue DPS player AKM, and Rascal, he plays Genji, he plays Pharah, as well as the McCree. And really, Simba, I want to get your thoughts on this. So we know, like in sports, we do see people like free up, contract money basically, or like a salary cap. But what do you think, like these moves in particular do for London Spitfire, at least in regards to, the future?
Paging Dr. Slambo.
What? I'm sorry. I'm trying to fix my microphone. I thought you were talking to Jimmy. What was the question?
Oh, I was
trying to fix the microphone.
Yeah, I heard Slambo, so I was like, okay.
I mean, I would turn him up, but it will mess up the overlay if I minimize it.
Yeah, we're
don't
right
worry
now.
about it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll talk about that.
You do it, Jimmy. You pick it up and you save me here.
I will save you here. Dallas Fuel picking up another DPS, I think is really interesting. And I don't know, I really like this just because it helps some of the other players not have to be so flexible and kind of play in their role. Why is his name like completely like out of my mind right now?
Man, I just missed a whole sentence to me. A whole question.
Rascal?
You forgetting one name is no big deal.
No, oh my gosh, I can't think of his name. He had the awkward handshake.
Seagull.
Seagull, yeah. This will let Seagull not have to play as much Pharah as much anymore, and I think that'll be good for him because I feel like he does better on more of those niche hero picks, like the Junkrat, or this is really throwing it back, the occasional Bastion.
I mean, kind of addressing your initial question, I think London saw Fisher and Rascal, and they knew they were starters. They knew their caliber of players. So why not shop them out? Why not free up some roster space in case you want to bring somebody else on? Why not make a little money while you're doing it? And, there was probably some pushback from the players too. Like Fisher and Rascal both probably were like, hey, we want to play. We're good enough to play. Let us at least shop it out. And they found, players. And Dallas, I guess, thought Seagull's Genji was serviceable. But, when you're looking at Seagull versus Rascal, I love Seagull, but I'm going to pick Rascal as a Genji Now Farah's, I feel like they could go toe to toe, but like Jimmy said, I feel like the niche heroes are going to go to Siegel. But Siegel kind of, I feel like it's going to feel a player coach role, and come in for those niche heroes. They have a deep enough DPS roster at this point. I could see him maybe flexing to a niche DPS or even an off tank, because he's actually a really good Zarya as well if we go to the triple or quad tank. I still don't know why they're shopping out DPS primarily. I feel like Dallas needs a tank, and there have been like the rumors about So What and all that Hastro stuff. And I feel like that would help them more at this point, especially with the AKM signing. But I feel like Dallas is kind of generating that scary DPS core. And if they could just fix that front line, and maybe the meta will do it for them, they could return to form. I hope.
Yeah, you hope, but what's their plan? We'll just throw every good DPS on our roster. We'll just play them all at once. Is that the plan? Because that's not how this works.
If we have them, you don't.
Yeah, that's.
And to look back at like the London Spitfire question, this was something I was kind of saving until I dropped the ball and didn't hear Totem's question. But like, we never thought of this, I don't think, at the start of the season, where we saw Spitfire really combine two rosters and take two full teams and put them together. We were thinking they were scrimming in house. They want to keep those rosters intact. It kind of strengthens the practice. But I don't think we really thought about the trading block. And now that they've got these huge rosters of very talented players, when the end of stage 1 hits, now the value's gone up. Not because the individual players have given that value, but because the holes, the gaps in the team are like upping their price tag. So it's actually a pretty smart move by London, I think, by grabbing both those rosters in hindsight, because then they're able to turn around and get more money, I think, or get that salary off their books and probably get that person, they're getting paid more. So there was some kind of incentive, I'm assuming, for that transfer, because this isn't a trade. And that's what's blowing my mind. I want to keep saying trade, but it's very one directional. So there had to be cash incentive involved or something along those lines.
Yep, and, a lot of questions were surrounding the Florida Mayhem going into, that free agent signing window, and, they have made some more additions to this roster. Going in, they only had 6 people. They had, that former Misfits roster, and they have gone to Meta Athena to sign some of their players. So they picked up Saya player, awesome guy, as well as one of the assistant coaches, and Slambot, you and I were pretty big Meta Athena fans, so I'm really happy to see them getting a little bit of love for the Overwatch League. And Saya player, he was one of the flashiest players on this roster. He played a lot of Tracer, a lot of McCree, and a lot of Soldier 76. And then awesome guy, he had played with Pine and Flower during his time in Luxury Watch Red. And, with all the signings, they also have Zappis, so they are up to 9 players on their roster currently. But we have seen quite a few teams going out there and getting some new coaches. And, we can't, understate how important coaching has been, all in all, just in regards to the success of some of these Overwatch League teams, because if you don't have the coaching, you really don't have the plays, really.
It's interesting. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
The coaching, I think, is a little bit of the bigger story here for the Mayhem. And I definitely, when the rosters were first announced, I was like, wow, why is Florida only running 6 players? I feel like that's going to really hamper them. And it seems to have at least a little bit. And I felt worse for who was it, Tavik, because he's a really solid player. It's just it's really hard, I think, when other teams are able to swap in to counter what you have, and bringing in these players, I think, will be really, really good for them. And we've seen other teams be able to integrate different nationalities and different languages into their teams and be pretty successful. Being a bit of a homer here, but the Valiant having a bunch of French and American and Korean players doing pretty well, I would say, for themselves. So I think this only makes Florida stronger and definitely a contender to start moving up a little bit further in stage 2.
Nowhere to go but up.
Well, they could go.
They could go down technically.
They could go down 1.
Oh boy, hey, don't forget who you're talking about there at the bottom. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, exactly. I think I mean what you're seeing here is Saya player is going to sub in for Logix. There's no questions about it. Logix has struggled during stage 1, so they brought in somebody who, hopefully can bring them results. Awesome guy's a solid tank. I think, just adding him with Zappos is just going to, further accentuate their tank line, cuz Swoosh has kind of had the same problem as Remix. He's kind of going out there on his own and playing commando monkey and jumping into 6 people without any support. So we'll see how they do. I do agree. I think the coach is the bigger story here, because Florida has, from what we've heard, a lot of coaching issues and lack thereof of coaching issues. And hopefully this guy has a driver's license,
Thank you.
because
goodness.
you had mentioned Tavik's flexibility, and currently Tavik is driving the bus like an hour to the arena. So hopefully they have someone that they can at least sub into that position.
Oh, gosh.
I feel like the burns are just too easy with Florida, and we're just kind of picking on them at this point, because I was gonna say the first thing I saw when awesome player, I was like, oh well, Swoosh, welcome to Bench Boys. Talk to Mendo Kusai, and he'll tell you what that's all about. I mean, I think it's all for the right reasons. They've now got that Korean assistant coach. They've got 2 more consistent Korean players from good teams. I just think they need some diversity. It's not just a diversity of language or a diversity of hero build. It's just a way of thinking, a way to prepare. And really, they also need someone just to slap them upside the head and say, you're done with the intros. Now, they have confirmed, I saw like a Discord conversation where the intros are done. So we're not, and they were cute, they were fun, but it's only cool and fun, I think, if you win sometimes. And when it was that many droughts, it just became weird. And now we're expecting them to see a cool new walkout and not to see their team play. And I think,
Their match was over after the intro.
it felt that way, didn't it?
Mhm.
They were kind of, and I mean, you're being funny, but that's kind of how I felt as a spectator. They almost became a joke. And I don't know if Swoosh is going to be on the bench forever. And I just think he's going to really have to sit and try to learn that tank role from a spectator spot, because I can see both these players starting, stage 2, first week, second week, pretty quickly. So I mean, especially with Swoosh's performance, they need some change there, main tank.
Well, all of these roster additions that we have talked about tonight have been Korean players, except for this one. So we are having a bit more of a, Team USA reunion here over with the Houston Outlaws, as they have signed Fact Fiction. So, we only got one player left. We need to sign Adam, and we'll be good.
Yeah, I actually really, really like this. And this feels like, out of all of the roster additions and changes that we've talked about tonight, this is the one that has the most potential to make an impact day 1, just because he's already played with the rest of the team, or most of the team, on Team USA. And boy, that's going to be a big impact for Houston. And I'm really excited to see how they do week 1.
I mean, you have to ask yourself this question: did the Outlaws really need another tier 1 tank? Apparently, they think so. And I looked at this and I said, man, they're basically doing what Dallas is doing with DPS, and just saying, okay, we need more, top tier tanks so nobody else can have them. And then I started to really think about it. I'm like, Muma has never really played Reinhardt, and when he has, I don't remember it being anything substantial. Whereas Fact Fiction did play Reinhardt, and he was regarded as one of the best Reinhardts in the West. So I feel like this is future proofing them for a triple tank meta. And he may come on as their primary Reinhardt player, or if they need a less aggressive Winston. But I honestly think Muma is going to still start. I mean, I don't see any world where him and Cool Matt don't start.
Yeah, I don't see that either.
And that's the thing I was thinking about, is like, this is kind of a weird thought exercise for me, but Cool Matt is I think the same with or without Muma. He's shown it time and time again. He's such a consistent player, not just in that off tank role. In his early career, he played a lot of different roles really effectively. But I don't think Muma is the same without Cool Matt. So it doesn't really go both ways. So that's why this trade, one, it doesn't excite me, because I'm worried about breaking that synergy between Cool Matt and Muma. but it also excites me because Fact Fiction is one of my favorite tank players, and little shout out to him. We were Battle Right buddies for a while. We played that game Battle Right that was on late at one night.
I think we lost Lambo.
Oh no, Slambo! Slambo, come back.
He started name dropping, and Discord's like, yeah, get out of here.
As soon as he mentioned a different game,
It's okay. Someone
booted
screenshot that so you can see his face later. We're just gonna leave it like that. And yeah. Hopefully he'll reconnect.
So Fact Fiction's a cool guy. I just hope he's fixed that fat finger issue he had at the World Cup where he jumped off the ice.
Right? With the jump trip, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
But yeah, really, it does give them another really strong main tank. And, Fact Fiction did come from the former FaZe Clan roster, and he was really the only FaZe Clan member that did not get picked up for the Overwatch League. And, Houston Outlaws throughout Stage 1, they were pretty darn good. They finished with a very respectable 7-3 record. Their map differential was really good. They had a plus 17 at the end of Stage 1. And, Fact Fiction does primarily play Winston, but he does also bring the Reinhardt. And, I think we need to try to get Slambo back in here. Because he's just going to stay Dirtface.
Poor Slambo.
He looks angry.
He does look angry.
He's angry because Fact Fiction played with him once and that didn't want to play with him ever again.
All right, let me get him back in here. If I can, it's not even giving me the option to invite him back.
Maybe he dropped off the face of the earth.
He might have. Well, while I'm in the Discord, let me just bump his user volume up, and then he can join us whenever. This is probably going to
just destroyed your overlay, probably.
I know. It's because he dropped off of Discord.
There we go. I think no, maybe.
I think he's offline.
Okay.
He's offline, but that will fix the overlay. Okay, well, regardless, we'll go ahead and move on, and Slambo will hopefully reconnect. I'm probably gonna have to just manually invite him back in. Hopefully he messaged me or something.
That hotel Wi-Fi.
Yeah, it keeps dropping him, so it's messing up the overlay.
Doing it live.
F it.
It wouldn't be a live stream without some.
No, it's always got to be something. I don't know if I can fit. Well, I have everyone's cropped individually too, so that doesn't help.
Oh, it's always something with you.
Yep. Okay, so my options are, guys, I can either crop this live stream, and then Slambo will get back, or I just leave it all messed up. Here, let me... Apologies, guys. This shit happens. Alright, well, let's just go ahead. We'll try to get him back in whenever he can. Try to get him back in. Alright, well, let's go ahead and move into our question of the week this week. And we asked you guys, who do you think will be the most improved team in Stage 2 of the Overwatch League? And we did get some responses from our community. And over on Twitter, we got a response from @MajorLook1, who says, gonna go with the Florida Mayhem, don't know if or how they'll top their entrances from Stage 1, which we already kind of covered, they're not going to, because they're not doing them. But the roster additions they've made have been fantastic. And, okay, everyone's just blooping back. Okay, whatever. Alright, looking at Discord, we have Blaze and Bob says, duh, Dallas Fuel, I mean, hashtag burn blue, also burn Bob. And Slambo arrives back in the chat. Right, Nocturne Sky says, Dallas Fuel, Whitest Paper says, I want to say Mayhem and Shanghai. Shanghai has been improving a lot, and their Gagiri pick will help them a lot. Meanwhile, Mayhem have gotten 3 new players and 1 new coach. If they don't improve, it'll be a damn shame. Slambo's on his phone. Alright. Fox says, I actually think it's the Mayhem and Shanghai, mostly because of how my Mayhem got a huge change to their lineup. Get in our tutor as a coach, or writer. I'm assuming it's Ryder, whatever. And 2 other
I like
players.
R-Tutor.
R-Tutor, that works too. I mean, we'll just call him R2D2, and we'll just move on. It says Shanghai are also going to have the best Zarya in the world. And, Spider, why don't you take the other ones for this one?
You always give me Rob's.
Yeah, it's not, hey, to be fair, it's not like 20 paragraphs like the other one.
Like the Omnic Lab breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
All right, for stage 2, this again, this is from not Rob, from Omnic Lab. For stage 2, I think Gladiators picking up Fisher is actually a huge move for progression, and also the Mayhem I guess they meant to say have some very pointed additional pickups for their coaching staff. Arguable the main source for the team succeeding in the league so far. I think Gladiators may find their feet if they can anchor to Fisher, and Mayhem is likely to improve with leadership support, even if it's slow. Sija says it would have to be Dallas. I don't think anyone on their team can or should accept where they are placed in this stage, whether it's complacency, hubris, diet, or obduracy. Their experience and expertise should have seen them a contender rather than roadkill for other teams. Finally, well, actually, we have 2 more. ABG, a blind gentleman, Seoul will be the most improved. They struggled down the stretch. Was it illness, poor scouting? Both. I think if you told people at the start of the season they'd be 5th in the standings after stage 1, they'd laugh. The talent is clearly there. The execution needs improvements. And finally, we have Invictus. I would say LA Gladiators and the Shock have the best chance of improving the most in stage 2, and the Fuel Mayhem over the next 2 stages.
All right, as I keep reading Slambo, trying to get him back in the call, Jimmy, I want to get your thoughts on this. Who do you think are going to be the most improved team at the end of Stage 2?
I feel like I agree with a couple of our commentators here that it's going to be Dallas Fuel, because it just felt like, at least towards the end, they really started finding their groove, and I think they're getting on some talent that lets them fill the gaps where they're weakest right now. And I'm really thinking Dallas might be poised to make a real comeback in stage 2. And I'm only gonna go with Dallas. We have Slambo back. How's it going, my friend?
Can you guys hear me? Hello?
We
Yes.
can hear you.
And he's gone.
Don't say
No,
that.
no. Okay, hold on. Let me try to adjust you to see if it actually helps turn you up. I don't think it is. I turned you up to like 1... I have you at like 200, so can you try to say something?
Yeah, I will. Hi, I'm here. But what's crazy is I heard you guys ripping on me for the name drop, and everyone, we lost Slambo, and I could hear that. If my internet dropped,
Oh my gosh.
it didn't make any sense. I just rebooted.
It was
I'm
all
good.
Totem.
I blame Totem.
It was totally not me. Whatever.
I have a video on my phone of me landing pings and not connect. Anyway, I'm done. I'm done ranting. I'm sorry to interrupt. Let's keep the show going like I never disappeared.
Oh, well, we were talking about our question of the week, Slambo. So why don't we go ahead and ask you this question. Who do you think will be the most improved team in Stage 2 of the Overwatch League?
I don't want to admit it, but I think it's going to be the Fuel. Only because I think I don't know if a lot of people said that. I know a lot of our listeners did. A lot of people wrote in that. And I'm sure Spider said they were the most improved team, and Jimmy too. Okay, so
I haven't, but I was going to.
I know where we are.
So I'll pick someone new.
Spoiler alert. No, I think you should pick Dallas. I think they're a good pick. They're kind of riding the ship, it feels, kind of near the end of the season. They're getting things. They're finding their groove. And XQC, I don't think he's going to be the answer long term. And I know some things kind of went weird with So What, and that fell through. I still think on the horizon, we're going to see some more roster changes take place for Dallas. But even despite those roster changes, or in spite of those roster changes, I think we're going to see them as much more of a middle-of-the-pack team, especially with just the addition of Rascal, as you guys mentioned earlier. So, I'm not saying that they're going to be number 1. I'm not saying they're top 4. I'm not saying they're top 3. But I definitely think they're going to have an improvement from last stage.
Well, I would say Dallas, but you guys took all my reasons. So I'm gonna go with Shanghai Dragons, because there's only one way they can go, and that's up. And they made a lot of changes into the coaching staff. They have new players eventually coming on. They're not going to be there at the start of stage 2, but they may integrate near the end of stage 2. And they got the support of Twitch chat, which is, like we've mentioned, almost impossible to get on that scale. So I feel like they'll conquer, stage 2 and maybe win a game or two.
Don't set the bar too high.
Okay. They'll match Dallas's wins for stage 1.
There we go.
Yeah,
but hopefully not start this week.
For me, I mean, I would say Shanghai, but like we don't know the ETA on these new players. It is more than likely going to be at the second half of stage 2. That being said, though, since they didn't win any games in stage 1, technically they do have the most room for growth. That being said, though, I think at the end of the day, looking at all the additions that have been made, I think Florida Mayhem are actually going to be coming out the best out of, just in terms of, like, win differential between stage to stage overall. But I do think Dallas is going to improve leaps and bounds with their new additions. But, Shanghai, I'm more concerned about the communication and how exactly that is going to work out once they do have, their Korean players to that roster. So, well, let's see on that one. But anyways, guys, let's go ahead and jump into our main discussion for this week, which is, of course, talking about Overwatch League Stage 2. We're gonna get you guys primed and ready. We'll talk about the map pool, what we can expect to see from the meta, as well as preview the games that are to come this week for Week 1. So, Stage 2 map pool. Over on Assault, we have Volskaya and Hanamura. Over on Control, we have Nepal and Lijiang Tower. Hybrid being Kane's Row and Hollywood, and Escort being Route 66 and Watchpoint Gibraltar. So, we're kind of going a little bit old school in terms of competitive Overwatch with the return of Kane's Row and Hollywood. Those have been pretty staple maps in terms of competitive Overwatch. And I just want to get your guys' thoughts on this map pool, and if you think we're going to be seeing any, specific, niche picks or strategies coming out dependent on what map we're playing on.
I'm just excited to see some new maps. I was surprised how quickly I got burnt out on Junkertown and all the other maps in Stage 1. There was only 5 weeks of the same maps, but it still felt like we got burnt out pretty quick. But I'm excited for these. I really want to see how Hollywood is played in Overwatch League, just because there's that really tight choke point to get that first point, and we're gonna see a bunch of crazy Widow and Farm Mercy stuff on that map, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I was kind of burnt out of the maps, and I'm kind of excited to go back to, like Totem said, like the OG maps. Like, these are all maps players have played in since beta, so they've had these maps the whole time. So we might see some strategies come that are really map specific. I mean, we saw a lot of El Presidente or Pirate Ship on Junkertown, which none of these maps really lead to that kind of strategy. So I could see that strategy going away, and I can see, Orisa play kind of dropping as well on those type of maps. I still think we'll see her on Control and, the other places we've been seeing her. But I'm excited for all of these maps. The only one I'm not really excited for is Gibraltar, because Gibraltar was always Envious's worst map, so it doesn't help me as a Fuel fan.
Yeah, well,
go ahead.
I just want to say, I'm looking at these Assault maps, and Volskaya, kind of going back, was usually always, Sombra and solo support. Hanamura, I'm expecting we're going to see the return of Mei, going for the stall strat over on Point A. But I'm just really excited to see Route 66 back in play, and, Kane's Row always being, that original payload map, is definitely going to, bring a lot of, old school feelings, just for me. So I'm really happy to see that back. But Sembo, you can go ahead.
I just want to I'm pretty much going to echo, other things you guys said. One, yeah, I'm surprised how sick I got of some of these maps as a spectator, and not only that, it carried over to play. When I got to Junkertown and competitive, I was done. I am so sick of Junkertown, and I love the map, especially when it first came out, but it was ad nauseum, and the matches were lasting so long, both in competitive and from a spectator's perspective. I got a little sick of it. So yeah, the change has been great. I think it is kind of weird. We are kind of going back in time. Watch Point Gibraltar, Kings Row, Nepal. These were all like early maps, I feel, that we haven't got a lot of time on. And so I'm excited to see those things. I think Totem, the one I was going to call out, it's not just May on defense on Hanamura, but I also think we're going to see some more Doomfist on defense. I think he's really good on that first door, at least in my experience. And I would expect on defensively to see a little bit more Doomfist just on that first point. And I love Doomfist, so any chance I get to see him played, I'm all in. And we have some potential changes on the horizon for him, so I'm hoping that might at least bring him to the fold a little bit, although those changes aren't groundbreaking. The last thing I really wanted to say is Watchpoint Gibraltar. It's such a fun map for some reason because it every stage of it just feels like a different experience for each of the teams. And I think with this current, kind of death ball multi-tank meta we may be heading into, we're going to see a lot more of those quad tank strategies used on maps like Watchpoint, Route 66. And also Hollywood is DJ Tyrant was saying earlier, that first choke, it's kind of make or break for the whole map. If a team can get through that and get some momentum rolling, they can kind of roll through the streets phase of Hollywood. And to me, that just creates some more exciting matchups as a spectator when things can be a little bit more closer or a little bit more I guess even in a way, because that map equalizes a lot of the teams. So new maps. I'm really happy.
Yeah, and the thing out of all of these is, it's not Junkertown. Like, I don't know a lot of people that get, like, so upset when we get to any one of these specific maps, which is always a huge plus, because I know a lot of us were burnt out on Junkertown, honestly, like, in most cases, after the first day. And that was primarily because it was played in, like, every single series, so
And
there is that.
That first match was like, what was it, 8 points? Like, there was, like, 3 overtimes. They kept
The
finishing.
Seoul Dallas game,
yeah.
they went like neither team could defend.
So I think we were all just on this, high of like, oh my God, Junkertown's the best. And then no match on Junkertown lived up to that for the rest of the stage. So we're like, whatever.
That is true. Well, not only do we have new maps, but we are going to see a shift in the meta now that we are playing on the live patch. So, Mercy's wings have been clipped, much to the dismay of Melarina. I know she'll be upset about that. So, Mercy probably only going to be on Pharah duty, unfortunately, so I'm still expecting to see Pharmercy on the control maps. But, talking about the meta, we are going to see, like, we still have a pretty, like, healthy variety in terms of team compositions that we are going to be seeing. Triple tank is going to be one of them that's going to be at the forefront. It's usually played with a solo DPS, whether that is Tracer or, in some cases, Junkrat, paired with Lucio and really pick X-Healer. Quad tank is another popular one with, Moira and Lucio. We've already kind of seen that, at least on, like, Horizon Lunar Colony in Stage 1, and we all saw how ridiculous Coalescence charge is. 33 seconds, it's pretty damn quick. Dive, is still going to be very healthy. Winston, D.va, Tracer, Genji, probably Lucio and Zenyatta. Outlaws will have their anti-dive, which has been on really another level for the most part compared to some of the other teams out there. But we are going to see kind of a resurgence of Reaper and Ana to kind of deal with these beefier team compositions that we are going to be seeing. So I'm looking forward to seeing Ryu Jaehan back on Ana because it has been far too long, and we didn't really get to see him all that much on Ana, at least in Stage 1.
Yeah, I mean, I think meta-wise, I've been a big proponent of the triple and quad tank. I feel like that's where it's going to go. I feel like teams that run a niche dive are still going to run dive, but I feel like a majority of the teams for a majority of these maps are going to run triple, or I think quad tank might still be kind of rare, but at least triple tank. And I feel like we're going to see a huge disparity in offense and defense. Like, I feel like we're going to see Lucio a lot more on offense than we're going to see him on defense. At that point, you're going to see Zen or Ana. I think Zen play as a whole is going to go down because one of the things that made Zen such a proponent in the Mercy meta was Mercy. Like, she could heal for him, she could res him if there was a problem, and that's not the case anymore. So none of the other supports can really peel as well as Mercy could for a Zen, or kind of cover up the mosaic if a Zen got picked. So I feel like his usage is going to go down. I feel like we're going to see an uptick in Ana. We're going to see an uptick in Moira, definitely. I don't see a world where Moira isn't either the top support played, or at least top 2 support played. Just because of what you said, her ultimate right now is ridiculous. Like the charge rate, and especially when you think of maps like King's Row is a good one. It's it's a narrow street. After the first point, you got all that room to bounce those orbs around, and that's just more ult charge. And then they're all going to be standing right in front of you. There's very little verticality to King's Row unless you're Pharah and can keep yourself up there. So I feel like Moira is going to be very popular on that one. And you kind of touched on Pharmacy a little bit, and she's that comp has traditionally been ran on Control. That's when it was popular, before all the Mercy changes and everybody started hating on Mercy. But Nepal and Lijiang, neither one of those are huge Pharah maps. They both have specific points that are great for Pharmacy, but as a whole, you're looking at Control Tower, you're looking at I can't think of the name, the indoor one on Nepal.
Sanctum.
So I don't think we'll see Pharmacy as much as we would have had it been Oasis and Ilios. I think maybe for those specific points we might, but I honestly think the pros are tired enough of Mercy at this point that they're going to try to find any way possible not to run that at the moment.
Yeah, on that point though, I feel like if it's still really strong, we're still going to see that. And Farm Mercy really didn't get hurt too much by the Mercy changes, and people will still be able to consistently run that, like you said, on the control maps. But yeah, the 2 control maps that we're getting this stage don't lead themselves to be particularly great Farm Mercy ones. So yeah, 1 out of the 3 maps we'll probably see a Farm Mercy here and there. But I'm really interested to see how the quad tank works out, especially with maps like Hollywood and Hanamura, where that first point into getting into the first point of those maps is just so enclosed there, and you're going to be focused down there. You want to have those tanks there to fill up that, or to soak that damage. And yeah, like we were saying earlier, the coalescence is just, it's going to pay dividends for teams running quad tank, I think, especially on those maps.
I think for me, what I am kind of focusing on in my brain is the 2 supports we're going to see played a lot more. You guys mentioned are Moira and Ana. Yes, we're going to see Lucio and all that. And what that means, I think, is that Tracers and Genjis and those dive DPS heroes, forgive me, are going to have a little bit more of a tough time, because the Moira has a potential to kind of win that duel and or self-peel. And I think Ana can also do that as well. I mean, the sleep dart is a much higher, or lower percentage chance skill shot to hit. But both those heroes, I think, fend fairly well against those flanking heroes with enough skill, of course. And, we got great players playing those heroes. So we may just see a different style to Tracer being played, and we're probably going to see a little bit less Genji, where he's going to be replaced with some of these other more, like you said, maybe that Genji is now going to be that 3rd tank, or maybe we're not going to see any more dive DPS and we're going to see 2 tanks that accompany it. But I think, to me, that's what I'm excited to see, is that Ana and Moira shutting down those DPS. And yes, I know it happens on Zenyatta can do it, but you got to hit everything perfect. You've got a better kit to deal with some of those dive DPS on those 2 supports, and that may change it just in and of itself.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of just going back to Coalescence, really, like, the only way that teams were able to deal with that was running a Junkrat on the other side and getting that quick Riptire, but you also had to single out the Moira in that instance, which wasn't always the easiest thing to do. And, we saw, like, how few and far between that actually ended up working for the Junkrat player. Because normally they would just barrel through and they would take the first point or, whatever objective, and that would be pretty much game point at that rate. But I am expecting Boston. I don't expect them to run anything outside of dive, just because they did have one of the more impressive dive compositions in the Overwatch League. And I think all in all, like Houston, you got to look at their new addition, Fact Fiction, and I think out of all of the teams, they'll probably have one of the stronger triple tank setups in the league here for Stage 2. But definitely a lot of big matches this week, so why don't we go ahead and preview the Week 1 matches that are coming up. So Semba, why don't you take over this one?
You know what I said when I woke up? I said, nothing would make me happier than just being the left guy today. And I'm going to be the left guy today. Starting on Wednesday, February 21st at 4 p.m. Pacific time, we have the Seoul Dynasty, #Soulmates, and the Los Angeles Valiant. They'll be playing on Volskaya, Nepal, Kings Row, and Route 66. DJ Tyrant, what do you think's going on here? What are we looking at?
Okay, as a Valiant fan, I'm really excited about this matchup because the first time around, they were able to actually beat the Dynasty, and I honestly was not expecting this. I went back and watched some of the VODs again, just to see if the games felt a little bit different than watching them live. But Fleeta was so on point that series, but the thing was Oasis just didn't go well for them at all. They weren't able to bring the point back really from the Valiant once they had gotten them, and then Fleeta was just focusing on taking down the other DPS in the DPS duel, and on the side, I think it was Agilities, was just focusing on the supports instead, and that's really what edged them out, I think, in that series and turned the tide for LA to take that. I feel like Dynasty definitely is hurt from that series because I think they expected to win that series. So I think they'll be back to really challenge this series, and I think Valiant will still win, but it's going to go to an 3-2 in their favor.
I don't like hearing that, but I can't necessarily disagree based on the last match, so just going to kind of let that sit where it may. The next matchup is at 6 p.m. Pacific time. We've got the Dallas Fuel versus the Shanghai Dragons, also Volskaya, Nepal. Well, then we'll take a turn to Hollywood and finish off on Route 66. So, Totem, what's going on here? Dallas, Shanghai, is this the battle for the bottom?
Not quite. I mean, Dallas Fuel, for a while there, I had Dallas Fuel pretty low. I'll be honest, like, there were some weeks when I had him 9th, maybe even 10th place. Much to the dismay of, the person below me, Spider. But, this is a team that has shown improvements here very lately, and the new additions to this roster have definitely patched up some of the holes that have been in their game. And Shanghai, while they have looked decent in spots, their new additions aren't going to be playing in this series, and it probably won't get here till the later end of Stage 2. That being said, I'm mostly looking at a showcase of talent for these new additions for the Fuel, whether that is AKM or Rascal, but really, I'm going to be paying more attention to just the front line. We have seen the Shanghai Dragons tanks really struggle. Their Winston players have been known, much like some of the other Winston players, to kind of jump in and just immediately get picked off. And they can't be doing that. They can't keep making the same mistakes. And I don't think that Shanghai is going to take a map in this one. I predict it's going to be 4-0 in favor for the Dallas Fuel.
Wow, clean sweep. I think I heard Spider audibly gasp when you said that with excitement. I'm not certain.
Maybe.
Maybe. Okay, can neither confirm nor deny. For the last match for Wednesday, we do have the Los Angeles Gladiators versus the San Francisco Shock. So the map pool is Hanamura, Nepal, Kings Row, and Watchpoint Gibraltar. Bitter, don't be bitter. What do we got for this series?
All right, so the Shock are going to come out swinging. They lost their last time these two met, which was just 2 weeks ago. But, last time these guys met was Mercy meta, and one of the things everybody has criticized the Shock was Dak on his Mercy. Like, he would get picked off first, basically in 13% of the fights. So that, he was getting picked off first more than any other Mercy. So while I think the meta shift may help the shock, I don't think it's enough to change the outcome of this. So I don't think we'll see Fisher play for them. We may, because, like you had said earlier, swapping him out for Remix isn't that huge of a difference as long as he can throw some sort of communication in there. And I think the Gladiators are going to take it 3-2.
Wow. Okay. I like that pick a lot. And it's weird that this is closer now than it used to be. I think at the start of the season, we had this as an easy, win. But things change, and I'm looking for those improvements to show as well. I like your pick. As we move on to Thursday, February 22nd, we have our game of the week. Our game of the week: Houston Outlaws versus London Spitfire. Matt Pool, Volskaya, Nepal, Kings Row, and Route 66. So DJ Tyrant, you got to break this one down. It's the game of the week. The pressure's on.
Yeah, this is a really interesting matchup, and I think based on that playoff series, Outlaws has a lot to learn from it. I'm sure they reviewed that video many times, and just the question really is, how much was fatigue a factor for them? London also had the 3-2 series earlier on in the day, but I feel like they had a lot more pressure on them in that series against I think it was Boston to win that series, because they won and they were in the playoffs. But just that series that they played in the playoffs, that they had a hard time closing out maps. Their defenses were just not quite there, eluding the Outlaws, especially that Anubis holdout. They were like 30 seconds away from just shutting out London on Anubis and just couldn't close it out. And obviously they rolled that into taking 2 points and eventually the map there. So it's going to be really interesting. Prophet will also be really interesting to watch on London, because he made such a huge impact in that series. And I'm really interested to see if they do play Fact Fiction in this series and what kind of impact he brings to Houston, especially with how familiar he already is with much of the Outlaws roster already. And I know the commentators were talking about this during the series, but maybe using a little bit more Junkrat, or using it in more appropriate places, because it seemed like Jake would stay on Junkrat longer than he needed to be. So I'll be interested to see what kind of changes they make. My prediction, though, the end result's going to be the same, but it's going to be 2-1 Spitfire. And yes, that means there's going to be a tie in that series.
Yeah.
I'd like it.
I think the maps were so close that's not too far off base with those teams. And I'm also going to be watching for Fact Fiction. Sorry, Totem, what do you got?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on, like, one of the big takeaways that I had from that series that they played last time is that with Jake on the Junkrat, he saw a lot more pressure on his rip tires, because a lot of his rip tires didn't see any value throughout that series. So I'm really curious to see whether or not Houston is going to try to just better protect him in that case, just because, Riptire is one of the more impactful ultimates in the game, and if he's not popping with it, then, it really took a lot of the punch out of the Outlaws there.
Yeah, I am excited to see that series, and I know Houston has just ever so much of revenge on their in the back of their minds. They're circling this match, and they want a chance to prove that they can beat this team, and we'll see what happens. But I like it. Totem, you couldn't even contain yourself. You just had to jump in there. I love it. But Totem, I'm going to go to you now, because we've got the New York Excelsior versus the Florida Mayhem. They're going to Hanamura, Lijiang Tower, Kings Row, and Watchpoint Gibraltar. What the heck is? I mean, this is going to be a close series, right?
No, I don't think so.
He tried so hard.
I really struggle to give Florida a map against New York. Maybe against, Gladiators or the Dragons, they could get 2, maybe 3 maps. But against New York, when New York has been one of the more dominant teams in the Overwatch League, I don't see that happening. New York is going to be coming into this. This is their first game since losing the finals of Stage 1. So they're going to be looking at just rebounding quickly and just maintaining their top spot, above the standings overall in the Overwatch League. And I think it's still a little bit too early for Mayhem to really show, massive strides in terms of improvement with their newer additions. So I think New York is going to take this one 4-0. But I think, for me, I'm definitely going to be paying close attention to Zappis for the Mayhem and seeing just how much, space he can help create for the DPS for the Mayhem.
He's only one man, Totem, so don't put it all on his shoulders. But I will say, Totem, real fast, is that I remember New York dropping maps early to what we perceived as weaker teams. So throughout the rest of the stage, I would often say, oh, well, I could see New York losing a map here. But I happen to agree with you that it's not going to be against the Florida Mayhem right now. If these two teams play later in the stage, which I think they do, it's going to be a different story. But right now, Florida just has not had that time to make that synergy. So I think that's a good pick. Moving on, I guess, at 8 p.m., Boston Uprising versus the Philadelphia Fusion. It's Hanamura, Lijiang Tower, Hollywood, and Watchpoint Gibraltar. Spider, what do I need to look out for here as a fan of either of these teams?
I mean, this could be your the time that old man Slambo goes to bed, because Uprising just 4-0'd the Fusion, and I don't think the meta shifts and maps are going to make any difference against these teams. So, while Mercy won't be there, it's not going to affect Boston's dive that much. I mean, they're just going to run a different support, which they've shown they can adapt to. And, they're not fully tested in a non-Mercy meta, so I don't want to give them too much credit, but I feel like that's been the problem we've had this whole time, is we've never given them enough credit. So I'm going to say, maybe Philly has gone back and looked at the tapes, maybe they've cleaned some things up, but it's still going to be 3-1 Boston.
You're giving them a map, that's good.
I'm purely giving Shadowburn a map, because
Oh, okay. I'll allow that only because he's on my fantasy team.
Gibraltar is a huge Genji map, so he can run circles around an enemy team on Gibraltar. We've seen it before, so I feel like that is going to be the map that they take.
Fair enough. I'm going to quote you on that, and we will see how that pans out. But if you're going to bet on a horse, you never go wrong just putting a little money on Shadowburn. He will wild out at some point during that matchup. I think that's a good pick. So we get past Thursday, we move on to Friday, and we start with another barn burner here at 4 p.m. We got the London Spitfire versus the New York Excelsior. We're going to Volskaya, Lijiang Tower, Kings Row, and finishing it off on Watchpoint Gibraltar. So DJ Tyrant, what is there not to say about this matchup?
Oh my gosh. If you've been asleep for the past 5 weeks, this is a rematch of our Stage 1 Grand Finals already in week 1 of Stage 2. It's a huge match for both teams, and I'm curious to see if New York has had enough time or information from that finale to make changes that they feel like they need to overcome London. And my problem with look at this, how do you even predict a match like this? They played twice in the same day already, and both went 3-2. With different results between the two, with one costing NYXL $75,000. That was literally the difference. But yeah, I think this will be the series for the rest of the league to watch and see how the meta is set, because these are the top 2 teams in the league, I think, without question right now. And I think it's going to go 3-2 once again, and we're going to have the same result, with Spitfire taking it.
It's crazy how close these teams are, isn't it? I was so glad we didn't have to do pick'em for the finals, because I was so lost going into the last little tournament we had.
Just flip a coin.
It's really.
I was looking for one. I couldn't find one.
Oh, you couldn't find one?
I couldn't find one.
No.
I don't have one on my desk.
Well, you better, start getting some change on your desk so we can have better props, next time. Write that down. I think it's going to be interesting to see how Pine is used. I believe, and you guys can quote me or correct me if I'm wrong here. Quote me if I'm wrong. That would be terrible. Correct me if I'm wrong. But when Pine was in, it felt like New York had a little bit of an easier time taking maps, and they had to fight and claw a little harder when he wasn't in. And I mean, I'm sure the coaches are looking at all that footage and trying to find out what that is. But I think they just need to use Pine a little bit more. But anyway, that's shoehorn in a thought.
When you look at the map pool, Kings Row and Gibraltar are both good Widow maps. So they could pull Pine out on those two maps. So as long as they can do something in Volskaya, they have the option to run Pine in the last two maps. So, you could be on to something.
Ooh, who knows? Well, I know someone else who's on to something, and that's Totem. And he's going to talk to us about Dallas Fuel versus the Los Angeles Gladiators. We're going to Hanamura, then Lijiang Tower, then to Kings Row, and then Watchpoint Gibraltar. All these maps are out of the United States of America. Totem, is that going to matter in this matchup?
No. I have this one going 3-1 in favor of Dallas Fuel. I think the Fisher signing was absolutely huge for the Gladiators, but the problem is the Gladiators' DPS were just so inconsistent. They started off really good in Stage 1, and then they just kind of fell apart there. So, the Gladiators are, one of the biggest, question mark teams for me right now, outside of Philadelphia Confusion, which are the other huge question mark team, which is a whole nother different story, but I'm not going to get into that. But I think Dallas is going to get the best of this one. I am looking at, in terms of the matchup for this, being, Surefour going up against either Effect or Rascal. Who knows, they might even be paired together if Dallas Fuel does come out with a dive composition, which I know would be a real thunker, because Dallas Fuel and dive don't really belong in the same sentence, because they have proven that they can't run it or deal with it, so who knows? But I'm assuming that we will see Effect back in full swing, and he will get the upper hand against Surefour in this one, so 3-1 in favor of the Fuel.
You say upper hand, I say uppercut. I want to see some more Effect on the Doomfist. Personally, that's just me.
That's right.
Well, I think that will be a fun match to watch. And this is really going to be, what's the right way to say this? This is really going to tell us if Dallas Fuel is making the strides in the right direction, depending on how they show up against the Gladiators, even if we saw the Gladiators kind of dip at the end of the stage. Moving on to our 8 o'clock Pacific time game, the San Francisco Shock versus the Seoul Dynasty. We're going to Hanamura, Lijiang Tower, Hollywood, and Watchpoint Spider. This one does have a map in the United States. Is that going to make a difference?
Absolutely. It will make the difference in that we will still watch it. These two just played each other. And on paper, you look at them and you say, there's no way the Shock have a chance. But last time the Shock took them to a map 5 and really put the soulmates on the edge of their seat.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No comment.
But they did eventually lose. I don't want to sound like a broken record, but we're out of the Mercy meta, and that's going to make both of these teams stronger. But it's going to make Seoul a lot stronger than it's going to make the Shock. So while it was close last time, I feel like the Dynasty kind of are going to right the ship with the meta, and they're going to take this one 3-1.
Is San Francisco still just looking at their calendar, waiting for Sinatra to turn 18?
Exactly.
I kind of forgot about Sinatra, but you're dead right. They're just like
Super too.
Can we
get Super?
God, and Super. When can we get? That's going to change a lot of their roster when they finally get that. So I think that's a great call out. I think even with Sinatra and Super, though, they're probably not going to beat the Dynasty right now. That's me being a hashtag soulmate.
Unbiased.
But they're a fun team to watch. I enjoy watching San Francisco's matches for whatever reason. So I will look forward to this match. And Spider, I just had one quick follow-up question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Are we still in the Mercy meta?
No.
Okay, I just didn't get that.
I can reiterate it again.
I wasn't sure.
You should call Dak and ask him. If he's alive, then no, we're not in the Mercy meta anymore.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
that is a better burn right there.
The real question is he going to lead the league in deaths as support? And also, how soon is Sinatra going to complain about other tracers get in harmony whenever he loses a 1v1?
He's all right. He's just an annoying tracer. He's not the best tracer. LW is the best tracer, Sinatra. So Totem has opened up a private chat to Spider, and it says, Lambo will never be left guy again. Is what I think happened behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Did you send that to him on accident?
No. I mean, I can't send any messages because, that would just mess up the overlay. So, no, I'm not.
Can't.
I'm actually texting it to him right now.
Fair enough. Thank you. I just want to make sure. I wanted to make sure my firing was public. So anyway, we're gonna move on to the last day of matches for Stage 2, Week 1, and that's Saturday, February 24th at 1 o'clock. One of our new start times. The Philadelphia Fusion is taking on the Florida Mayhem. This is the last one, DJ Tyrant. So we're going to Hanamura, Nepal, Hollywood, and Watchpoint Gibraltar. I gotta know who is winning this one.
So just based on like the kind of paper math, I feel like Philly has the advantage here. But there are so many questions in this series because there's new rosters, and new rosters, and a new coach. So it's really hard to predict. I think it'll all come down though to Mayhem just not having enough time to get used to their new roster, not gelling necessarily as much. Let's take a look back at the beginning of Stage 1 though, and remember that Philadelphia started extremely strong. They beat Houston in Week 1, which is
weird.
insane.
That
Which is
was
insane.
That was shock value. No one knew what to expect from this team, and I think it was more that than anything. No one knew what to expect.
And obviously they faded a bit as the season went on, but I feel like they've got to have Florida's number here, even with their struggles lately. And so I have them 3-1 taking this series.
I wish that I think all the teams that have kind of made these changes, coaching changes, player changes, roster changes, kind of wish they had a little bit more time in between stages. At this moment, they probably feel that way because they're like, we just wish we could get that time together and gel. But unfortunately, that's not the case. And I think this is a good game for Florida to kind of test themselves. It's a team that's a little bit closer to them. So kind of looking forward to seeing if Florida can turn the corner and try out some of those new players and flex some of their new coaching staff. So I think that's a good pick. All right. As we go on, 3 o'clock Pacific time, we have the Boston Uprising versus the Houston Outlaws. We go to Hanamura, then Lijiang Tower, Kings Row, and Watchpoint Gibraltar. Totem, this is a rematch kind of deal here because I think that the Boston Uprising, even though they didn't end up taking the series, they took a lot of the energy away from Houston as they went into the playoffs for Stage 1. So how do you see this going in this rematch?
Ooh, this is one of those matches that really is a coin flip. You have the Uprising who, going into the Overwatch League, a lot of people kind of ruled him out to begin with, and they've kind of embraced like this underdog status. Not that they see themselves as that, because we know that they don't. But they have the best dive in the league right now, and they're going up against a team that has the best anti-dive in the league in the Houston Outlaws. So this one can really go either way. I am expecting this one to go the distance. We're going to see all 5 maps in this series. And I feel like the win condition for the Uprising is going to be able to... Like, they're going to have to win on defense. They're going to need to negate Jake's Rip Tires. But whether or not they can have similar, results with that, like, compared to what Spitfire did, I don't think so. I think the Outlaws will edge them in this one, so I'm going to say 3-2 in favor of Houston.
So you're calling basically the repeat of what we saw, which I think is a great pick, and I think that's right. But it's kind of for the same reasons we're going to see the same result. And these teams haven't had that much shift other than fact fiction, so it's a true rematch. And I think just good luck flipping that coin, fellas. As we round out our Stage 2, Week 1, we have the Shanghai Dragons versus the Los Angeles Valiant. We're going to Hanamura, Lijiang, Kings Row, and Watchpoint Gibraltar. So, Spider, take us home. Again, another very tough match. What's going to happen?
All right, so if Shanghai had its new players and everything, I could make an argument they may have a chance. But the Valiant 4-0'd them the last time they played, and neither of these teams have changed that much. Again, the meta's not going to affect either one of these teams, so kind of a slow end to the week. But after the huge marquee matches that we have starting the last 2 days, last 3 days even, it's kind of a good chill game to end on, and I think the Valiant will take it. Jimmy's probably going to be happy with that, so
Yep.
How can you not be? I think that it's pretty like you said, it's kind of a weird way. It's a chill match to watch. It's kind of chill. We have such low expectations for Shanghai that if they do anything at all, we're like, yay, Shanghai, and
good job, you made an effort.
Yeah, it's weird. We just give them like this participation trophy as observers. I don't know why we do that, but a lot of people do that. Even I've kind of grown like, once I saw D.va cry, I was like, okay, I love this team like I love a puppy, not like I love my football team.
So you don't love them very much, based
No.
on your previous performance.
Oh, we're going in a full
Remove
circle.
all puppies from Overwatch.
Yeah, you guys, that's what I said.
That's why Slambo's so mad. He's like, "You're the dog. I hate this."
The real question for me in this series is, will Soon backcap more in terms of points than Shanghai Dragons will win maps? That's what I want to know.
Good problem to have right there.
Ouch.
My question is, well, what I think, this is a really random thought, but there's this clip of Unko from the Valiant calling the uniforms ugly. I don't know if you guys have seen this, but that they are ugly. I hate them. He hates it. So every time the Valiant play anybody, instead of saying the uniforms, I just put the other team name in my head. The Shanghai Dragons. They're ugly. I hate them. That is I have. I don't know why. Again, random thought here, but that is what goes on in my head with whoever the Valiant play.
Pre-game prep.
They're ugly, and that helps Unko. All right, it helps him.
It does. Yeah, but talking about Valiant, I know this didn't get to make it into the notes, but I think this is the recurring theme we're talking about with Overwatch League is Valiant actually announced a new head coach a couple hours before we went live. Moon from Korea, or Byung-chul MBC Moon, is new head coach for Valiant, having worked with Fate and Kariv in the past. So I think that brings a little bit more familiarity. And I'm really interested to see what kind of impact that has for Valiant. And maybe we'll see that more in this series because, as we've all pretty clearly said, Shanghai has room for improvement. And so I think that makes the series interesting for the Valiant in that they can kind of experiment a little bit with some compositions and try to see if something a little off meta works for them.
I don't know. I just want a chill match, right, Spider?
That's right. But I'm with Jimmy. I think the more coaching staff you bring on, the better. So more power to the Valiant for picking up another coach. I wish Dallas would do the same, because currently Dallas's coaching staff is Kai and Violet, and Violet was not an Overwatch player. It's like a player coach. So I feel like they need something. Pick up a Korean coach, please.
They need a Tyrong, right? Because Houston has Tyrong, and I think that's elevated them over the course of the stage. So I think you're right. You're being kind of jokey, but they really do need a strong, I think, Korean influence on that coaching staff. But
Rob and I had like a 40-minute discussion in Discord the other night about Tyrong and how great he is compared to all the other coaches. So I'm with you.
My bad. I did not mean to rehash that. I didn't know that happened. But, yeah.
You were asleep at the time is what it was.
I was. Or you asked me, and I straight up just did not know you asked me a question like earlier in the episode. Or I randomly disconnected like I did earlier in the episode. Totem, I think this is the time that you fire me from Left Guy and take this thing back.
All right, well, let's go ahead and close things out before, we have any more mishaps here on our live stream. So if you would like to help out the show, guys, one of the best ways to do that is to leave us a review over on iTunes or your podcast app of choice. Any feedback or constructive criticism is always welcomed, just because that will offer us some insight on how we can make for a better listen experience for you. We do have merchandise available over on teespring.com/OWLN-show. We do have our Pick'em League, which is still going on. We are doing prizes at the end of each stage, as well as, bigger prizes at the end of the season. All of the prizes for Stage 1 have already been given out to the top 3, but it's not too late to join that, so you can find the link to that in the show notes. And who knows, maybe Spider at some point, either in this stage or a future stage, will be able to, leapfrog over someone, but, don't hold your breath on that, because, I think we got this on lockdown.
Probably. If I was me, I wouldn't bet on me.
Well
There you
said,
have it.
Spider. Well said.
Well, if you would like to reach us, you can do so a number of ways. You can email the show at owlnshow@gmail.com. We're also on Twitter and Instagram at owlnshow. We also have our website at www.owlnshow.com, our YouTube channel. I think we're at like 54 subscribers right now, so we don't have our custom URL as of yet. Just search for Overwatch League Network on YouTube, and you can find us there. Join us over on our Discord server at discord.me/OWLNshow. And, right now we are on Twitch at twitch.tv/OWLNshow, where every Monday going forward at 7 p.m. Pacific time, we will be live streaming the podcast. And, if not, you can always find it the day after in your podcasting app of choice. But if you'd like to reach us, you can do so. You can find me on Twitter at TomelyDrunkCTR, as well as Twitch at twitch.tv/TomelyDrunk. And Slambo, where can people get a hold of you?
You can get a hold of me on at Slambo and twitch.tv/Slambo. I'm fading fast. I was trying to find this message someone wrote me and I can't find it, but if I can find it, I'll read it next episode. So go ahead. Yeah, move on.
All right, and Spider, where can people get a hold of you?
You can find me on Twitter at SpiderGD, on Twitch at the same thing, Twitch TV/SpiderGD.
All right, and Jimmy, where can people get a hold of you?
Yeah, Twitter and Twitch, same thing, at DJ Tyrant. And that's the easiest way to find out what I'm doing with the content stuff and when I stream and all that.
You're doing a lot of hero stuff right now, right?
Yeah, it's HEC Open, so all the Open Division stuff. I mean, I know that's going to start up soon for OWL, the contender stuff. So it's similar to that.
Yeah, I mean, right now we have, like, the trials going on, but Contenders is coming up here next month, which, we will cover all of that stuff on the back cap here in the upcoming weeks ahead. But Jimmy, thanks again so much for being here on OWLN. It's been quite a while since we've gotten to, sit down and talk some Overwatch, and so glad you were able to join us tonight.
Yeah, thank you once again for inviting me on. I always love talking Overwatch, so it's just a fun time.
Alright, well, with that, let's go ahead and close out the show. Guys, thank you so much for hanging out in Twitch chat, and thank you for anyone that is listening later on in the downloads. But for now, guys, that is going to do it for us here tonight on Overwatch League Network, and we will see you guys back here next week. Have a good night.
Thank you for listening to the Overwatch League Network. Be sure to follow the show on Twitter at OWLN Show. The theme music for OWLN
Slambo, you look
is
like
the
you're
main
fading
theme and
fast.
victory theme guitar remix by Michael Mack. My wife just texted me too. My dad's in town. He's annoying the heck out of her. So I'm getting like drama. I'm like, oh God. And I got a message. I couldn't find it though.
You got a message? Alright, well, we're still streaming, by the way.
I know
So-
we are, but I'm just saying, we're not recording. But I can't remember if it was on Discord, if it was on Twitter. I just could not find it. But someone wrote
Too
me
many
a-
apps.
Too many apps.
Too many
They wrote
things
me a
open
nice
at once.
message. Yeah. So anyway, all right. If I find it, I'll do it. But that's why I was kind of staring at my phone there at the end. I was like, where the hell is this?
Yeah, I got like a number of Discord notifications. I'm like, I can't check any of these.
Struggle's real. I don't know what you're gonna do about the audio, buddy. It's gonna be a mess. I might have to pull it from.
I honestly can just pull it from Twitch,
Yeah, that's what I mean. You're gonna have to.
which is fine.
So don't even bother with the locals.
I would just save yours, but and then
Okay.
Totem, I guess, because there were some issues with my voice. you may have to up me in Audacity. The weird thing is because of like my setup and this stupid interface I have, like locally it records fine, but it's just, on your end it wasn't. So
Yeah, and I bumped you up to like 200% too in Discord.
and when I go home next week, it'll be fine. So don't you have to turn me down.
No, you're gonna be blowing our ears out next week. That's what's gonna be happening. Now I'm gonna have to, move you back down again.
You don't know that.
Oh, I do know that.
I'm exporting mine just in case. If you need it later, I can pull it.
All right. Yeah, sounds good. Jimmy, I will go ahead and give you the Google Drive link. If you do want to
perfect.
upload yours.
Yeah, I can throw it on there.
Yeah, overall, I think it went pretty well.
Yeah, outside of, the disconnect, but that's fine. Like
It's
I
live.
kept trying to to like bring like Slampa back in, and then it would like post your profile pic for like a second, and it would revert back to triple cam.
Oh yeah. I saw
The
like
back
as I'm watching on my phone, I saw the overlay constantly jumping. I'm like, oh, poor Totem. Like, it always has to go wrong.
That's alright. Shit happens. Alright, I posted it in the Discord.
Cool.
In the call. Oh no. Spider disappeared. Okay, he's back.
I was just turning the light off.
Alright.
I just now was like reading some of the reviews for our show.
Oh, is that a
What
thing?
is it? What is some of this stuff?
Is that a thing?
Do we have new ones?
I mean, there's one from Squid I never read, and I'm like, when did he write this?
Oh, you're just going through like all the old ones.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean, I just haven't seen a lot of these.
Mm-hmm.
One guy says some pretty brutal stuff. It's like, God,
Dude,
dang.
people are brutal on this.
I love it, man. Bring it on, but geez Louise. I shouldn't read this. Squid says, I always sound like I have a fly in my throat. I'll take it. I talk all day at work, so by the time I get to the podcast, it starts to go.
You're
Mhm.
done.
Absolutely.
God damn. All right. Woo!
All right, cool.
Yeah, Jimmy, thanks for coming, man. That was a blast, to be honest with you. That was fun.
Yeah, no problem. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and I didn't ignore spiders. When we're asking them questions or anything.
You
Honestly,
would
I'm
hope not.
sorry. Someone just wrote that my mic was messed up, so I was like playing with settings, and I thought, we had like moved on and you were starting the cycle over again. It's like, I have 30 seconds here. I didn't.
Oh. Shit happens. I'll just say that just on my end. We'll just have to do that, like, right as we start. Just have whoever in Twitch chat monitor that.
Yeah, and then like I said, I'm home.
It's
next
very
week on
wonky,
my-
because, like, I was trying to, like, manually adjust it, like, on my end, like, just through, like, the volume slider, but, like, there were a couple of times where, like, my computer would ping randomly, which I know is gonna come through, too, which doesn't help.
Whatever, man. It's the first one. We'll clean it up. We'll figure it out.
We'll do it live.
Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Yeah, shit always happens when we're live. That's alright. Expect the unexpected. That's all you need to know.
Yep.
Shot of me saying that to Rob. Where's general chat at? Let's read this. Something always breaks with the smug meme from Mercy.
Mm-hmm.
And it happened.
And something did break.
That's what I mean. I've almost screenshotted that, but I didn't have internet, so.
Oh, I'm glad Mel came through with the screen cap of your dirt face.
There we go. Yep.
Hope you see
As
my
far as
reply.
dirt faces go, that's not that bad.
It's really not.
No,
Mhm.
there's been like these where I'm like this, like this. Like those are the ones that are embarrassing. That one's not even that bad.
No. Could have been 10 times worse. Alright, well, let's go ahead and we'll drop the stream, and Slambo can go get some sleep.
Old man Bo.
Yep. All right, Twitch chat, thank you guys so much for hanging out, and we will see you, later on in a week for our viewing party for the game of the week. Guys, have a good night.